Steve Harvey was in the middle of reading the next survey question when his producer did something unprecedented. She walked onto the stage with a tablet, her face pale with shock. What Steve was about to discover would reveal that a humble kindergarten teacher had been running a secret operation for 3 decades that would change everything America thought it knew about education, potential, and sacrifice. It was Monday, December 2nd, 2022, at the Family Feud studios in Atlanta. The atmosphere was festive, with holiday decorations adorning the set. The Washington family from Memphis was facing off against the Riverside Elementary team from Detroit. The teachers had matching purple t-shirts with Riverside Reads printed on them, though one teacher's shirt was noticeably more faded than the others. At the center podium stood Rosalind Walker, 54 years old, with silver-streaked black hair in neat braids wrapped into a bun. She wore a purple cardigan over her team shirt, carefully mended at the elbows. Her smile was radiant but tired, the kind that comes from 3 decades of singing the alphabet song with genuine enthusiasm every single September. "All right, Miss Walker," Steve said, setting up for the next question. "Tell me about teaching kindergarten for 31 years. That's a lot of finger painting." Rosalind laughed, a warm sound that filled the studio. "Mr. Harvey, it's so much more than finger painting. It's watching 5-year-olds discover they can read. It's seeing their faces when they realize letters make words and words make stories. It's pure magic, every single day. And you've never wanted to teach older kids? Move up to 1st grade, 2nd grade? Never," Rosalind said firmly. "Kindergarten is where it all begins. That's where you can spot the spark. That's where you can make the biggest difference." "Spot the spark?" Steve asked, curious. Rosalind hesitated for just a moment. "Every child has potential, Mr. Harvey. Sometimes you just have to look a little harder to find it." The game continued, and the Riverside Elementary team was doing well. They'd just won their 2nd round when Steve noticed something odd. Rosalind kept checking an old flip phone, the kind most people hadn't used in a decade. She'd glance at it, type something quickly with obvious urgency, then slip it back into her cardigan pocket. During the commercial break, Steve walked over. "Everything all right, Miss Walker? You seem distracted." "Oh, I'm fine," Rosalind said, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just one of my students, Jalen. He's having a hard day. His mama texts me when he gets overwhelmed. He's special, you see. Really special." "Special how?" Steve asked. "He's 5 years old and can already do algebra," Rosalind said quietly. "But the district says he's too young for the gifted program. Says kindergartners can't be properly evaluated. So I work with him myself." "You tutor him after school?" "Before school, actually. 6 a.m. every morning. His mama works 3 jobs, drops him off on her way to her first shift." Steve was impressed. "That's dedication. That's necessity," Rosalind corrected. "If I don't nurture his gift now, by the time the system recognizes it, it might be too late." The game resumed, and Riverside Elementary made it to fast money. Rosalind was chosen to go first. As she stood at the podium, Steve could see her taking deep breaths, centering herself. "20 seconds on the clock, Miss Walker. You ready?" "Ready," she said, gripping the podium. "Here we go. Name something teachers buy with their own money." "Everything," Rosalind said without hesitation. Then caught herself. "I mean, supplies. School supplies. Name a subject kids struggle with most. Reading when they're hungry." Rosalind answered, then quickly added, "Reading. Age, when potential is formed. 5, she said firmly. 5 years old. Something you sacrifice for others. Your own dreams," Rosalind whispered. Then louder, "Time. Your time. 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 Something every child deserves." "To be seen," Rosalind said, tears suddenly in her eyes. "Every child deserves to be truly seen." The buzzer sounded. Steve walked over, noticing Rosalind was trembling slightly. "Those were some heavy answers, Miss Walker." "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "It's been a long semester, As they set up for her colleague Jennifer to take her turn, Steve's producer Margaret Chen walked onto the stage. This had never happened during active taping in Steve's entire tenure. "Steve," Margaret said urgently, "you need to see this. Right now." She handed him a tablet. On the screen was a LinkedIn post that had gone viral in the last hour. It was from someone named Dr. Marcus Thompson, and it began. "The woman on Family Feud right now saved my life when I was 5 years old." Steve read quickly, his eyes widening. The post continued. "Miss Walker recognized I could read at a college level in kindergarten. The school said I was acting out. She taught me calculus during nap time, bought me books with her grocery money, and made sure I got into a gifted program. I just finished my residency at Johns Hopkins. I'm not the only one. There are dozens of us. She's been doing this for 30 years. "Is this true?" Steve asked Rosalind, showing her the tablet. Rosalind looked mortified. "How did he? I don't understand." Margaret spoke up. "Steve, we've received over 40 messages in the last hour, all from doctors, scientists, engineers, artists, all saying the same thing. That woman identified their gifts when they were 5 years old and secretly nurtured them." Steve turned to Rosalind. "What have you been doing?" Rosalind sank into a chair, overwhelmed. I teach kindergarten in an underfunded school, Mr. Harvey. The district doesn't test for giftedness until 3rd grade, and even then, only if parents push for it. But I can see it at 5. I can see the child who thinks differently, learns differently, processes the world differently. So what do you do?" "I document everything," Rosalind admitted. "For 31 years, I've kept detailed records. Every child who shows exceptional ability, math, reading, music, art, problem solving, I track them." "Track them how?" Rosalind pulled out a worn notebook from her bag. "I follow up. 1st grade, 2nd grade, middle school, high school. I make sure they get into programs. I write recommendation letters." I intervene." "Intervene?" Steve pressed. "I buy them materials, advanced books, art supplies, musical instruments. I connect them with mentors. I drive them to competitions. I pay for applications, test fees, camp registrations." She paused, looking embarrassed. "I use my teacher's salary. All of it, basically." Jennifer Martinez, her colleague, gasped. "Roz, is that why you drive that ancient car? Why you never join us for lunch?" Rosalind didn't answer, but her silence was confirmation enough. Steve's producer was typing furiously on her phone. "Steve, the messages keep coming. We have a Nobel Prize nominee saying Miss Walker identified her mathematical ability. A Broadway performer saying she bought him his first piano. A NASA engineer, a best-selling author, a surgeon who developed a new heart procedure. They're all saying the same thing. She found them in kindergarten and never let them fall through the cracks." "How many?" Steve asked Rosalind directly. "How many children have you done this for?" Rosalind looked at her notebook, flipping through pages covered in tiny, neat handwriting. "I've identified 212 children with exceptional abilities over 31 years. I've been able to meaningfully help 93 of them." 93? Steve was astounded. "And where are they now?" Before Rosalind could answer, the studio doors opened. A young man in a doctor's coat walked in. Then a woman in a NASA jacket. Then another person. And another. They kept coming. 10, 20, 30 people. All successful. All walking toward Rosalind with tears in their eyes. "Oh my God," Rosalind whispered. "Marcus, Keisha, Anthony, what are you all doing here?" Dr. Marcus Thompson, the one whose LinkedIn post had started this revelation, spoke first. "We've been looking for a way to thank you for 20 years, Miss Walker. When I saw you on TV, I knew this was our chance." Keisha Williams, wearing the NASA jacket, added, "You came to my apartment when I was 7, convinced my grandmother to let me apply to a science program. You paid the application fee. You drove me there every Saturday for 2 years. Anthony Chen, holding a violin, said, You heard me humming in class and somehow knew. You bought me this violin with your car payment money. I'm first chair with the Detroit Symphony now. Steve was speechless. The audience was in tears. Rosalind was shaking, overwhelmed by seeing her former students. But how did none of us know? Jennifer asked. Roz, we worked together every day. Dr. Thompson answered for her. Because she never told anyone. She never took credit. Every recommendation letter was signed, a concerned teacher. Every donation was anonymous. Every intervention was made to look like luck or coincidence. Why? Steve asked Rosalind. Why keep it secret? Rosalind wiped her eyes. Because it wasn't about me. It was about them. These children. They were already brilliant. I just made sure the world got to see it too. But the money, Steve pressed. Your colleagues are saying you never eat lunch? You drive a 20-year-old car. Where does your salary go? One of the former students, a woman in a business suit, spoke up. It goes to current students. She's still doing it. Right now, she's supporting 7 kids in my old neighborhood. Rosalind looked panicked. You can't. Please don't. Miss Walker. The woman continued. I'm Maria Santos. I'm CFO of a Fortune 500 company now. When I was 5, you saw that I could do complex math in my head. You bought me workbooks, puzzles, coding games, before anyone knew what coding was. You paid for math camp every summer, until I got a scholarship. Steve turned to Rosalind. 7 current students? On a teacher's salary? Rosalind's voice was barely a whisper. They need it more than I do. What do you need? Steve asked gently. For the first time, Rosalind's composure cracked. I need Jalen to get into the early admission program at the university. I need Aisha to get her art supplies for the competition. I need David's internet to stay on so he can access the advanced courses. I need Maria's family to afford the gas to get her to the regional science fair. These are your current students? My current babies, yes. All kindergartners, all brilliant, all being overlooked because of their zip code. Steve's producer handed him another tablet. Steve, something's happening. The hashtag #MissWalkerKids is trending. These former students are organizing something. On the screen was a GoFundMe page that had been created 30 minutes ago. The Walker Gift Fund, continuing a secret legacy. It had already raised $300,000. Dr. Thompson stepped forward. Miss Walker, we've all talked about this for years. How to pay you back. But we realized we can't pay you back. You wouldn't accept it. So we're going to pay it forward. What do you mean? Rosalind asked. We're creating a foundation, Maria Santos announced. The Rosalind Walker Foundation for Exceptional Children. We've already secured pledges for $5 million in initial funding. Rosalind gasped. $5 million. Every child you identify will be fully supported from kindergarten through college, Dr. Thompson explained. Supplies, tutoring, camp, application fees, everything. And Miss Walker, you'll be the director, with a proper salary. I can't. I'm just a kindergarten teacher. No, Steve interjected firmly. You're not just anything. You're a woman who's been running an underground railroad for gifted children for 3 decades. Using your own money, your own time, sacrificing your own comfort. Keisha from NASA added, Miss Walker, do you know what you've contributed to society? The 37 of us who could make it here today, we've calculated our collective impact. 3 medical patents, 2 space technology innovations, 15 published academic papers, 4 Broadway shows, 12 small businesses employing hundreds of people. That's just us. That's just who could get here today. Another former student spoke up. I'm James Rodriguez. I'm a federal judge now. When I was 5, you saw something in the way I argued about playground rules. You brought me books about law, about justice. You connected me with a lawyer mentor when I was 8 years old, Miss Walker. I remember you, Rosalind said softly. You were so concerned about fairness, about everyone getting their turn on the swings. And you saw a future judge in a 5-year-old. Worried about swing time, James said. That's your gift, Miss Walker. You see who we can become before we even know who we are. Steve's producer interrupted again. Steve, the President of the United States just tweeted about this. She's calling Miss Walker a national treasure and announcing a new education initiative inspired by her work. Rosalind sat down, overwhelmed. This is too much. I just teach kindergarten. Tell us about your current kids, Steve said. The ones you're supporting now. Rosalind's face lit up despite her tears. Jalen, he's 5 and understands quantum physics concepts. I don't even fully understand what he's talking about sometimes, but I found a professor at the university who meets with him on Zoom. I pay for the internet at his house to make that happen. How much? Steve asked. $120 a month. His mom can't afford it with 3 other kids. What else? Aisha. She's an artist. 5 years old, and she sees the world in colors and patterns I can't even describe. I buy her supplies, good supplies, not the cheap ones. She needs to know her gift is worth investing in. How much for supplies? About $200 a month. Sometimes more if there's a competition. Steve did quick math. Miss Walker, what's your take-home pay as a teacher? Rosalind looked embarrassed. After 31 years? About $3,200 a month after taxes. And how much do you spend on your students? She pulled out her notebook, flipping to a page. This month? $2,800. The studio gasped. Steve's voice was incredulous. I manage, Rosalind said simply. Rice is cheap. The school has a shower in the gym. The custodian lets me in early. The shower at school? Jennifer, her colleague, was crying. Roz, why the shower at school? Rosalind's silence was damning. Steve put it together. You don't have hot water at home. You can't afford utilities. I have what I need, Rosalind said firmly. They have what they need. That's what matters. Dr. Thompson was typing furiously on his phone. Miss Walker, we're not letting this continue. The foundation is starting immediately. Effective today. And, Maria Santos added, we're back paying you. 31 years of expenses. We're going through your notebooks, every receipt, every expenditure. We're reimbursing all of it. That's got to be. Steve started calculating. Our preliminary estimate is over $1.2 million she spent of her own money over 3 decades, another former student said. He was wearing an expensive suit and introduced himself as Michael Patterson, a Wall Street trader. I've already pledged to cover half personally. Why? Steve asked him. Because when I was 5, Miss Walker saw that I could calculate complex patterns. She bought me an old computer at a yard sale, taught herself basic coding to teach me. That $8 yard sale computer led to me managing a $1 billion portfolio today. Rosalind was sobbing now. I don't want money. I just want the kids to have what they need. And that's exactly why you deserve everything, Steve said. He turned to the camera. America, we're watching something unprecedented here. A teacher who's lived in poverty for 3 decades to secretly fund her students' gifts. And those students growing up to become leaders in every field imaginable. Steve's producer signaled him again. Steve, the Secretary of Education is on the line. Steve took the call, putting it on speaker. Miss Walker, this is Secretary Johnson. I'm watching the show. We're implementing an immediate pilot program based on your model. Early identification and support for gifted children in underserved communities. We want you to lead the national initiative. I can't leave my classroom, Rosalind said immediately. My kids need me. You'll keep teaching, the secretary assured her. But you'll also train others. Your methods, your instincts, they need to be replicated nationwide. We're calling it the Walker Protocol. The audience erupted in applause. Rosalind looked stunned. One of her current colleagues spoke up. Roz, yesterday you were eating crackers for lunch. Again. You said you weren't hungry. You've been saying that for years. I eat plenty, Rosalind protested weakly. No, Jennifer said firmly. You don't. You give everything away. Everything. A younger woman in the group of former students stepped forward. Miss Walker, I'm Destiny Washington. I'm a chef now. I own 3 restaurants. When I was 5, you saw me organizing the play kitchen with precision, creating imaginary menus. You bought me my first real cookbook with your electricity bill money. I remember. Rosalind smiled through tears. You made me invisible soup, but you described every ingredient like it was real. It was real to me, Destiny said, and you knew that mattered. Miss Walker, I'm opening a 4th restaurant. It's going to be in Detroit, near Riverside Elementary. Every teacher eats free, forever, but especially you. Steve was doing math on his card. So we have doctors, NASA scientists, judges, Wall Street traders, chefs, musicians. Miss Walker, do you understand what you've done? I've taught kindergarten. Rosalind said simply. No, Steve said firmly. You've changed the trajectory of American innovation, justice, arts, and science, single-handedly, in secret, while living in poverty. Dr. Thompson spoke again. Miss Walker, there's something else. We've found 62 more of your former students. They're all successful. They all have stories. They all want to contribute to the foundation. 62 more? Rosalind whispered. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers, social workers, entrepreneurs. You have an army of successful adults who owe their careers to a kindergarten teacher who saw their potential. Steve turned back to Rosalind. What drives you? What makes someone sacrifice everything for 31 years? Rosalind was quiet for a moment. When I was 5, I was brilliant too. But I was poor, black, and female in rural Mississippi in 1975. Nobody saw me. Nobody nurtured my gift. I became a teacher, which I love, but I wonder, what could I have been if someone had seen me? She wiped her eyes. So I see them, every brilliant baby who walks into my classroom, regardless of their parents' income, their skin color, their circumstances. I see them, and I make sure the world sees them too. Even if it costs you everything? Steve asked. Especially then, Rosalind said firmly, because their potential is worth more than my comfort. The studio was silent for a moment, absorbing the profound truth of her words. Then, from the back of the group of former students, a voice called out, Miss Walker, can you come here, please? The crowd parted, revealing an elderly woman in a wheelchair, probably in her 80s. Rosalind gasped. Miss Patricia? Miss Patricia Johnson? Hello, Rosie, the woman said warmly. Steve looked confused. Who is this? Rosalind was crying harder now. This is my kindergarten teacher. From 1975. Miss Patricia smiled. Rosie here was the most brilliant 5-year-old I ever taught. And I've regretted every day for 49 years that I couldn't do more for her. You did everything, Rosalind protested. You taught me to read, to love learning, but I couldn't change the system for you, Miss, Patricia said. I couldn't give you what you deserved. But look what you did. With what little you got, you became what the system should have been. She turned to Steve. Mr. Harvey, I'm 91 years old. I've been following Rosie's career for decades. I knew what she was doing. I've been documenting it too. She pulled out a thick folder. Letters from parents. Thank you notes from children. News clippings about her former students' achievements. 31 years of evidence that one teacher can change the world. Steve took the folder, leafing through it. Miss Walker, these parents knew? Some figured it out, Miss Patricia answered for her. But Rosie always made them promise not to tell. Said it would compromise her ability to help if people knew. Why would it compromise anything? Steve asked. Rosalind answered quietly, because then it becomes about charity, not about justice. These children deserve support because they're brilliant, not because their teacher is poor. It should be about them, not about me. Michael Patterson, the Wall Street trader, stepped forward again. Miss Walker, the foundation isn't charity. It's infrastructure. You've proven that early identification and support of gifted children in underserved communities provides astronomical returns on investment. Returns on investment? Rosalind looked uncomfortable with the language. Let me put it differently, Michael said. The 37 of us here today pay a combined $12 million in taxes annually. That's every year. The government's investment in our early education has been repaid hundreds of times over. The Secretary of Education's voice came through the speaker again. Miss Walker, Mr. Patterson is right. We're not looking at this as charity. We're looking at it as the most effective education investment strategy we've ever seen. The Walker Protocol will be funded at $2 billion nationally. $2 billion? Rosalind whispered. To start, the Secretary confirmed. Based on your model, early identification, consistent support, long-term tracking, you've given us the blueprint. Steve's producer signaled again. Steve, we have calls coming in from everywhere. Universities offering honorary degrees, publishing houses wanting her story, documentary filmmakers. Everyone wants Miss Walker. Steve held up his hand. Hold on. Miss Walker, what do you want? Rosalind thought for a moment. I want to go back to my classroom on Monday. I want to keep teaching my babies, but I also want Jalen to get his advanced mathematics tutoring. I want Aisha to have all the art supplies she needs. I want David's internet to never get shut off again. Done, Dr. Thompson said immediately. All of it, done. And, Rosalind continued, I want every kindergarten teacher in America to be trained to spot exceptional children, not just academic gifts. Athletic gifts, artistic gifts, leadership gifts, emotional intelligence gifts, every kind of brilliant. That's the Walker Protocol, the Secretary confirmed. You'll train the trainers. Steve turned to face the camera directly. Ladies and gentlemen, what we've witnessed today is what happens when one person decides that potential is worth more than comfort. Miss Rosalind Walker has lived in poverty for 31 years, using approximately 90% of her income to secretly support gifted children in her community. He turned back to Rosalind. The game show doesn't matter anymore, but I want you to know that your team won. And the prize money, we're multiplying it by 10. That's $200,000. Rosalind shook her head. Give it to the foundation. For the kids. No, Steve said firmly. This is for you. For the first time in 31 years, this is for you. Jennifer, her colleague, grabbed the microphone. Roz, we're not letting you give this away. We're going to make sure you use it for yourself. New car, hot water, actual food. I don't need. Rosalind started. Yes, you do, the entire group of former students said in unison. Destiny Washington added, Miss Walker, you taught us that we deserved good things. Now it's time for you to believe you deserve them too. The show continued for another hour, though it wasn't really Family Feud anymore. It had become a celebration, a reunion, a moment of national recognition for a woman who never sought recognition. Former students kept sharing stories. The girl who became a neurosurgeon because Miss Walker noticed she was left-handed but could use both hands equally at age 5. The boy who became an architect because Miss Walker saw how he built elaborate block structures. The child who became a therapist because Miss Walker recognized their unusual empathy. Each story followed the same pattern. A 5-year-old with a gift that the system would have missed. A teacher who saw it anyway. And secret support that continued for years. How did you afford college application fees for all of them? Steve asked at one point. I didn't eat breakfast or lunch for 6 years, Rosalind admitted. From 2005 to 2011, that saved about $3,000 a year. Enough for application fees, SAT prep books, and test registrations for 12 students. You didn't eat 2 meals a day for 6 years? Steve was aghast. Dinner was enough. School had coffee. I managed. Dr. Thompson was crying. I was one of those 12 students. You told me you were doing intermittent fasting for health reasons. You needed those applications more than I needed sandwiches, Rosalind said simply. As the taping finally wound down, Steve asked one final question. Miss Walker, if you could tell America's teachers one thing, what would it be? Rosalind thought carefully. Look harder. That quiet kid in the corner might be composing symphonies in their head. The one acting out might be bored because they're 3 grades ahead mentally. The one doodling might be the next Picasso. And if you see it, if you really see it, don't wait for the system. Be the system. And if they can't afford to support these kids like you have, then document it, track it, advocate for it, make noise about it. I stayed quiet because I could afford to help. But silence isn't always the answer. Sometimes you need to scream about the brilliance being wasted. 6 months later, the Walker Protocol had been implemented in 3,000 schools across America. 14,000 gifted children in underserved communities had been identified and were receiving support. Rosalind still teaches kindergarten at Riverside Elementary, but now she has assistance, resources, and a proper salary that she's legally prohibited from giving away entirely. The foundation board made that a condition of her employment. She lives in a modest apartment with reliable hot water and electricity. She eats 3 meals a day, though she still brings extra sandwiches to school for kids who forgot their lunch. Old habits die hard. The Rosalind Walker Foundation has an endowment of $50 million, contributed by her former students and matched by several tech billionaires who were moved by her story. Every child she identifies receives full support from kindergarten through college. But perhaps the most important change is that Rosalind Walker is no longer alone in her mission. Thousands of teachers across America now look for the spark, document the gift, and fight for the potential they see in 5-year-old eyes. The segment that aired was titled The Secret Genius Maker. It became the most watched Family Feud episode in history. But more importantly, it changed how America thinks about education, potential, and the power of one teacher who refuses to let brilliance be buried by circumstance. In her classroom, now equipped with advanced learning materials donated by her former students, Rosalind still teaches the alphabet song with the same enthusiasm. But now, when she spots a child thinking differently, learning differently, being different, she doesn't have to choose between her groceries and their gifts. She can nurture both their potential and her own well-being. And that, perhaps, is the greatest gift her students could have given her. The permission to take care of herself while taking care of them. The notebook she carried for 31 years is now in the Smithsonian, a testament to one woman's dedication to seeing what others missed. But Rosalind has a new notebook now, still documenting, still tracking, still seeing the extraordinary in 5-year-olds who the world might otherwise overlook. Because for Rosalind Walker, teaching kindergarten was never just about teaching kindergarten. It was about recognizing that genius can bloom anywhere, in any child, if just one person is willing to see it, believe in it, and nurture it. Even if that means eating crackers for lunch for 31 years.